We're about to start part 8 of building of the Dancing Feather pilot boat. And in this episode, we're going to be starting to put on some of the appendages to the hull. Going to build a rudder. Going to have to put in the traveler at the stern, a bunch of other fittings. And after that, we'll be looking at the cabins that go on the deck, what we call the deck furniture. I just used this tool, which is a scribe, and I used it to mark the water line on the boat, so we'll be able to paint the bottom paint on it pretty soon. And I've got a nice fine tape so that we can paint up to that. So I'm going to be taping off a little higher than that with a little bit of this white tape over here. And that'll protect me from going over the line. And we'll paint that maybe this afternoon. Just taped off the keel. So now we can paint up to the edge of the keel and up the stern post on the back side. So now I've got to make a decision as to whether I want to go with a green bottom paint or a brick red bottom paint. I don't know as I have enough of the red. Let me open it up and find out. Turns out my brick red was just about empty. So I have 2 containers of the woodland green. So the decision has been made. We're going to have a green bottom paint. This bottle is fairly full, so we're going to use this one. And the liquid is separated from the paint, so we got to stir it. Start off with a wide brush, and we'll trim close to the tape lines with a smaller brush afterwards. Looks like it's going to take a couple of coats to do the job. Whoa, stripped right off there. Rather than mess with that, I'm going to let this dry. And then once it's dry, the second coat is probably going to want to stick better than the first coat, hopefully. This green has turned out to be a disaster. First of all, it's a satin. I don't really want a satin on here for a bottom paint. I want a matte finish. Second of all, as it starts to firm up a little bit, if you try to brush over it, it lifts off the black, and I've had to sand this down lightly to smooth it out again. So I'm giving up on this green. I wanted a brick red for the bottom, and I didn't have any, so I went ahead with that green. So now I've bought some brick red paint that's matte, and I'm going to go with that instead. That was a surprise, it really was. I've never seen paint act like that, where it was lifting. So we're going to put some of this in a cup. That's more than enough to do the bottom. And we'll start over again. That's covering better already. That looks so much better. Let's see what that looks like when it dries, because the matte finish is going to hide a few sins there. I've pulled the masking tape off, and we have a nice clean boot line along the water line. So when this dries to a matte finish, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. That's one disaster avoided anyhow. Now that the bottom paint is dried, it's matte color. It's come out very nice. The water line's nice and straight. Good sharp line. I think that all worked out pretty nicely. There's a lot of detail that starts to go on here at the bow. We've got these pieces that stick out on the sides. We've got this ornamental piece that goes up to the front of the bowsprit. And now it's calling for spray rails to go on top of the cap rail. And I just cut out and glued a set of spray rails onto it. And then we'll start looking at the area in here with the ornamental pieces. And the hawser pipe goes in to the hull here. So we got a lot of small details we can start working on here. I've taken the hull lines drawing off the drawing board at this point, and we're going to be using it now to produce some of the details, such as the rudder. And I've purchased some pintles and gudgeons to, as it says here, gudgeons and pintles. It acts as hinges for the rudder. And I'm gluing up 3 pieces of cherry wood. The rudder probably would have been made out of at least 3 pieces of wood wide. And then over here we have the pintles and gudgeons that we'll be putting together. I've already started to see where they might lay out on the hull. Going to have to fit them in. They have to be inletted a little bit because the stern post just a little wide for them. So that's the next step. While I'm waiting for the rudder stock to glue to dry, I've taken some of this black 032 wire, and I fabricated the mainsail sheet horse or traveler, whatever you want to call it, and we've got a ring on it. So a little bit of progress there. Going to have to put a little bit of the polyurethane on the cherry wood blocks that are carrying the sheet horse. I've shaped the outline of the rudder using a disc sander, and now we're going to have to cut some notches in it to let the pintles and gudgeons into the rudder so that they won't form a gap between the stern post and the rudder. So that'll be the next piece of work. Well, the hinges are starting to fit in pretty nicely. I think I'm going to have to add a block of wood in behind this one on this side because there's no planking and I need to support it. The frame on the top one probably supports that good enough, but on the unfinished side here with no planking, I need to support the bottom one. I've located the position of the 2 masts where they're going to pierce through the deck, and we're going to start off with a small drill and work our way up. The plans show a 1/4 inch mast, so we'll work our way up to that. the 3/16 drill. So this is a 17th 64th drill, which is a 64th of an inch bigger than the mast. And the masts are going to have a 7-degree rake on them. So if the 17/64 doesn't allow the mast to tip back far enough, we may have to do a little filing. So we may have to do some filing with the deck beams getting in the way and whatnot, so that it's thicker than just the planking. But this gets it in the right place, and got here a 1/4 inch dowel, so that'll fit down in there nicely. And to get the 7 degrees rake, we will have to do some filing. Just finish notching the rudder so that it will accept the hinges. And I've shortened the hinge up on the rudder side. I'm going to have to drill a hole to put a pin in. And now we're just shaping the doing the final shaping on the rudder here. Rounding over the edges a bit, trying to make the trailing edge look a little thinner. And it looks like it should work out just fine. Right now I'm working on the fixture that will allow me to set the 7-degree rake on the masts, and being able to work off the water line with a 7-degree vertical angle makes it a nice way to set the masts. The pencil line on the board will give me the centering of the mast vertically, and then this way we'll get the rake. So I'm going to put a strip of wood along the line that's an 1/8 inch off the center line, so that I'll be able to clamp the mast to the piece that's going up vertically. So that should all work out pretty well, and that's same procedure whether it's the foremast or the main mast. So yeah, that's what we're up to now. This is the completed mast fixture, and because we're clamped to a vertical board, the mast should be straight up and down with respect to the water line. And from this side, we have a 7-degree rake. So theoretically, this should be a really good way of aligning the mast to the boat and to each mast to each other. This ship has decorative trail boards, port and starboard. And I've cut out a couple of pieces of poplar, and we're going to see how that goes, making them into trail boards. They are going to fit up under the covering board, like so, on both sides. They'll be painted black, and then we'll have gold trim on them. It'll make a rather nice looking piece. Now, how to do the gold trim? I want it to stand out a little bit from the base, so it almost looks like it's carved. So what I've done is I've taken a couple of dowels and inserted them into a block, and I've tied down some line on the top surface, and I'm going to brush some white glue onto these to stiffen them, and then I'm going to try gluing those onto the trail boards, and the loop will be at the tip of the trail board, and the trail boards will be painted black, and then this line will be painted gold and glued on top of the trail boards. Hopefully that's going to work out. We'll see how that goes. I've soaked the line with white glue, and the idea being that this, when it sets up, should stiffen into the shape it's in, and we'll see how that goes. It may seem here that I'm jumping back and forth between a lot of stuff, and that's because I'm jumping back and forth between a lot of stuff. I'm just cutting out a block that's going to go in here. It's going to get carved to support the cat head, which is what the anchor hangs on. It's hoisted up by the cat heads. There'll be one on port and one on starboard, and it's probably going to move a little bit forward from here, maybe about there. And it's going to get carved in the other direction as well, which won't make sense until I actually show you what I mean. So anyhow, that's a interesting new detail to start on. The bow of the boat has an awful lot going on by the time we get through the rigging and everything on it. This is a very fussy part of the boat to model. Alright, I've got the Dremel tool, and we're going to try to carve this away in this direction, and hopefully it's going to stay snug in the vise, not come flying out of there. Well, that didn't work. I don't know if you can see the line I'm trying to get to here. But we've got a bit of carving to do to get there. that sandpaper is not very good. That's burning, so I'm going to get a different piece of sandpaper. Let's try it again. Well, that looks like it may have worked out rather well. Okay, the cat head is coming along. It's fitted through the spray rail, and the tricky little support piece that curves has come out rather well, I think. So now we have to build the one for the starboard side. There's another piece that's lying down here on the deck that goes in behind it, so it comes up underneath it from inside. So we'll have that one on this side, and then we'll have another one over on the other side. The cat head has a double sheath in the end of it to haul up the anchor. So we're going to drill the holes for the sheaves. First thing I'm going to do is center punch the holes. And once we get the hole center punched, don't know if you can see that or not, but then we'll bring it up here and we'll drill the holes. Nice set of shiv holes. Still working on the cat heads. I just took a very fine chisel, this chisel here, and I carved down into the top of the cat head, making the grooves for the shivs. Plus we've installed an eye bolt in the front of the cat head. And the jib boom is now glued in place. We're going to have to put a wrap on that. It's got all the holes that we just drilled in front of that for the rigging. So we're moving along. The trail boards are painted black now. And I've also painted my line that has glue on it. I painted those in the gold. The cat heads are finally complete inside and out. And the only thing left to do is to fabricate a cleat to go up on this surface here. to tie off the line. And I think they came out pretty neat. So the cleats are now on the cat heads. So the cat heads are done. I just fabricated from a small dowel the martingale, or dolphin striker if you will. Drilled a hole through it and put a piece of wire in to catch a couple of lines that are going to run through it. So it normally would have an eye at the top, and it would be attached through the eye to the bottom of the bowsprit, but it's a little flimsy for rigging and whatnot, wants to wobble around and not stay straight. So I drilled a hole in the bottom of this collar and then glued it directly into the bottom of the collar. So I think that'll be a much stronger solution. I've just glued the trail boards on. Didn't come out too badly. I just finished up the rudder assembly by cutting off pin heads and using them as fasteners, to appear as fasteners. It looks a little shiny because I just gave it another coat of the rub-on polyurethane, which is really a satin. So when it dries, it won't be as shiny as that. So this actually looks like a pretty good place to end part 8.